Ladies and gentlemen, the following is another amazing episode of 15 Minutes of Fandom brought to you by the Wrestling Fans Podcast, Ringside Society. I am your host, that ocean crossing, straight up Boston, flight catching, shot glass snatching, always positive, life is great, repping 592, living in the 718, no cap, straight facts, the worldwide starboy, Remy Blue. And our special guest tonight is a man from the great white north. That's right, Canada. You know, I've had a lot of great times in Canada, enjoyed my time there. I highly recommend it to everybody, especially Toronto. He's also a huge AEW fan, loves women's wrestling, and is also a big Chris Statlander fan. Everybody, welcome to the show, Blue Fox. How
Hi,
you doing today, man? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. You?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Sorry for the late start. Had a couple of technical difficulties I had to take care of. But
Oh,
yeah,
these things happen.
yeah. So what part of Canada you're in, man?
I'm in Winnipeg, Manitoba, the home of Kenny Omega.
Ah, wow. I bet y'all must be really proud of him, man. Making y'all proud and whatnot. Doing his thing as, in New Japan, as part of the Gordon Lovers, Bullet Club. Now he's back over in America, North America, part of the AEW roster, longest AEW champion to date.
You can also throw Chris Jericho in there too, even though he wasn't born here, but he lived most of his life here too.
Yeah, I think he was born in New York, right?
Yeah, he was born in New York,
Yeah,
but he
yeah.
was raised in Winnipeg.
Oh, okay. Wow. Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. So how is the weather and everything over there?
It's quite warm now that we're getting into summer.
Cool, man. Yeah, I used to live in Toronto for a year and a half. I definitely enjoyed it. Y'all have some great nature parks, nature walks and all that, and it's well kept. And the country's just awesome, man. Like I'm not saying that because you're in front of me. Like legitimately, like I do love Canada. I haven't been back in almost, actually no, it's been 20 years, 25 years. But hopefully I do get a chance to go back there real soon and enjoy the sights and sounds as well. I do want to take a trip to Harborfront and maybe even try the CN Tower, maybe if time permits.
The funny thing is, I have never been to Toronto yet.
Oh, you haven't?
Yep. But if AEW ever does a show in Toronto, I'm going to do everything I can to get there.
It's not if, when, because it would be very remiss if they didn't do shows in Canada. You have to do shows in Canada. It is a must. So
No,
yeah.
with the border open now, they should be getting here pretty soon.
Oh wait, the border's open in Canada now?
I think so.
Wow. I gotta say, y'all did not play with that pandemic, man. Y'all were like, nah, we're not having that. We gonna stay shut. I heard that even if you were going to Alaska, you could drive through Canada, but you cannot stop. You got to keep going to Alaska until you get to Alaska from here. They were not playing with that border closing at all. Yeah. So tell us, man, how did you become a fan of professional wrestling? What was the main event or the show that started it all for you?
I in the 80s, I first watching wrestling. Like I was 81, so I grew up as an 80s kid. 1987, I first started watching wrestling on TV, but it wasn't. I didn't start watching WWF until I'd have to say late 1989, because throughout 1990 up until 2005, I watched it pretty religiously. But like from 86 until like 89, I was watching like AWA, West 4 Wrestling Alliance, which was an indie promotion up here in Winnipeg that had its own weekly TV show. And like Chris Jericho was on it, Lance Storm, Don Callis, um, uh, who was it? Baron von Raschke, a lot of the old greats.
Okay. So you got to see. So you were watching Chris Jericho, and what was the name of him? And was it the Heartthrobs or the Heart? Him and Lance Storm had like a rocker-esque tag team.
They were called the Thrill Seekers.
The Thrill Seekers, yes, the Thrill Seekers. So you were watching them back when they were doing their thing back in the day?
Yeah, yeah. But it wasn't until like I was very young back then, so I didn't know who they were yet, and it wasn't until like a few years ago that I found some old clips of them from from the Westport Wrestling Alliance on YouTube, and I'm like, wait, Jericho was in that promotion? I don't remember him, and just seeing how young he was back then, that's where when he got his start.
Yeah, I would love just for one more time. I know Lance Storm is pretty much retired, but I'm pretty much he can still go. He's what, 50? He's in his 50s. I'm not gonna. I don't know. I
I'm
don't know.
pretty
I
sure
think.
he could still go.
Yeah, and just for one more night, just a one-off appearance. I'd like to see the Thrill Seekers wrestle, whether it's in AEW, WWE Impact. Just for one more night, I'd like to see that tag team reunite.
If
That's
I was
all.
to pick a team for them to go against, I would definitely say have them against FTR. That would be a good match.
Oh yeah, yeah. FTR, they're on that journey to become the greatest tag team, one of the greatest tag teams in professional wrestling, and yeah, that'd be a pretty good match. I
Mhm.
wouldn't mind seeing them going against somebody like the Young Bucks or Red Dragon. Red
Oh,
Dragon's
that would
another,
be a good one. Them Red Dragon.
or heck, maybe even have them go against Santana and Ortiz. That'd be pretty good. It's a pretty good rub for them too.
Mhm.
They have a old school tag team going up against them. That'd be a pretty good match as well too.
Mhm.
So did you get to watch like Stampede? No, did you get Stampede up there and all too?
I don't remember seeing Stampede when I was growing up. I don't think we got it in Manitoba. Unless you had cable, but we didn't. My family didn't have cable until 1999, so we only had like 3 channels growing up.
Yeah, I know those days, man. I tell a lot of wrestling fans these days, like, y'all don't know how, because I'm 39. I was born in 80, and I tell people, I'm like, y'all don't know how it was back in the day when we were watching wrestling, man. Like, we had wrestling growing up. I remember wrestling being like one, like on Saturday, maybe, so you might get it on Sunday, and then that was it. And then pay-per-views, if you didn't have cable, you either heard about it from your friends the next day in school, or you saw the stills, whatever stills they decided to show you.
Yeah.
But that
Or
was it.
you or you or you got to, or if you could rent them on VHS back in the day.
Yep, that was another one too.
That's how I got to see a lot of the pay-per-views was through VHS rentals.
Yeah, I remember that too. And I remembered like you'd be so excited to see the stills and like, wow, that happened during that match. Wow, that's pretty cool. And or you'd be wanting to hear like, okay, um, like who won what match? Because sometimes the announcers, a lot of times the announcers, the commentators will actually say who won and who lost and so on. And now these days, it's like it's a matter like with wrestling, it's a matter of you can either you can watch it on your computer, in terms of how frequent you want to see wrestling. There are so many places you can watch. You can watch on YouTube, not just your TV now. I mean, you can watch on YouTube. There's Fight TV. There's IWTV. For pay-per-views, if you don't want to pay for the pay-per-view, you can go to a bar and just watch it. Like I know here in New York. So yeah, man, it's so different now, and it's kind of crazy, like seeing how far it's come. That's a good thing too.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, who are some of your favorites you enjoyed watching growing up?
The Hart Foundation. I'll admit I was a Hulk Hogan fan back then. Um,
No problem with that.
yeah. Um, Million Dollar Man, Ted DiBiase, Jake the Snake Roberts. Jake was probably one of my top favorites. The Rockers, Demolition, Roddy Piper.
Wow, those are some greats, I tell you. The Rockers are one of my favorites. Were my first favorite tag team, and I completely marked out when I finally got to meet Marty Jannetty. I haven't met Shawn Michaels yet. Maybe one day, but met Marty Jannetty. I was like, dude, you guys were like my first favorite tag team, man. And I don't have too many favorite tag teams. You guys were like my first. Yeah. Um, Hulk Hogan was definitely the man back then. And even though he has some controversy around his name now, one thing I'll always give him is without him it wouldn't have been possible. I'm sorry. That's one hill. That's one hill I'm gonna die on. Yeah, he's said some questionable stuff, and he's done some questionable things in the past. And my whole theory is Hulkamania was a double-edged sword, and I can go on and on, but that's another story for another day. But he gave a lot to the sport, and without him, the rock and wrestling. He's one of the people that made the rock and wrestling era what it was. The other guy was Vince McMahon, and without those two, it wouldn't have been possible. I'll challenge anybody. If not Hulk Hogan, then who? Who could have taken up that mantle? Dusty Rhodes? Yeah, maybe, but Dusty Rhodes was well into his age. I mean, he was when that started touching 40. You know, Macho Man? Yeah, but nah, not for that role that Hulk Hogan had to play. You know, Hulk Hogan was right there. He was in the right place at the right time, pretty much. So, did you ever get to meet any of your favorites growing up? Like any of those guys growing up?
The only one I really got to meet was Jake Roberts, and that was I'd say almost 10 years ago. Where I met him at a comic book convention.
Okay.
Yeah. Though I will admit it was I don't want to say he was not having a good time. It's just that he let's just say it was not a very friendly meeting with him. Like, well, it was, but he sounded a little bit rude and all that. Like he was like the first, like when I was getting the picture and the paying for it, he just looked at me. He's like, well, what do you want, you bastard? And I'm like, what are you doing? And then when I told him that you were one of my favorites, he was like, well, I should be your only favorite. And I'm like, in my head, like, you're the guy I grew up watching. Like, why are you being rude all of a sudden here?
Well, they say you should never meet your heroes. I mean, it is what it is. Funny thing is, I met Jake, but Jake was very. Then again, I'm a person when I meet these men and women, I'm very short myself. Like I get to the point and I keep it moving because I know they meet a lot. I'm not making an excuse for them, but I know they tend to meet a lot of people, and some are like cheery, and some are like, okay, let's get this over with. I'm very short with short and straight to the point with them. But I met him one time, and I took a picture with him, and he had very few words to say to me. I did, however, get to meet his brother, Sam Houston. Very cool guy, cool as hell. And let me tell you, they said Sam Houston was a bit small for the business,
Yeah.
like in stature. I'm like, I had to look up to this guy. I'm like, this guy was small. Like this guy is huge. Like he could probably whoop my ass in a game of basketball. And I told him, I'm like, Sam, I'm sorry, but they said you were one of the smaller guys of the business. I've seen smaller guys in the business. That you ain't it. Very cool guy. Very cool guy though. I don't know if you noticed, but his daughter actually wrestles now too. Sam Houston's daughter and Jake Roberts' niece, Samantha Starr. She wrestles now too.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm not that familiar with that person.
Yeah, she's on the indies though. She hasn't surprisingly hasn't been signed yet or hasn't been on TV yet, but hopefully soon. Yeah. So you're a huge AEW fan, man. Tell us, man. Like, was it the first show? Was it like the first show that they had that you saw, or was it like gradually that you became a fan?
Well, it was basically Double or Nothing 2019. Like, I didn't actually watch it. I actually watched one of the live streams that people were What Culture were doing. Just they didn't show the footage, but they reacted to it. That was really where I started. That was the only way I was watching the pay-per-views at first, and I just followed along and all that. And when Dynamite started, I didn't start watching Dynamite yet because I'll admit it, I was basically a WWE guy still. So I was still watching WWE. But when the pandemic hit, I was not in a good place. Like I got temporarily laid off, and I was scared, and and WWE was the only thing I could watch at the moment. But when they were doing the first, like, if you remember the first like performance center shows that were just really hard to watch because there was like just the people in the ring and that was it. There was no noise or anything. But I switched over to see what how AEW was handling it and seeing that they had wrestlers out at ringside making noise and make it sound like there were people there. I started getting hooked on that because they felt like they were taking the pandemic very seriously. Like WWE felt like they were pretending that the pandemic was not even happening, that this was just a new thing they're doing. And AEW right from the get go was saying, yeah, there's a pandemic going on and we can't have fans back right now. So this is how we're going to do it for now. We don't know if we're going to be in business in a few months, but we're going to do what we can to keep you people entertained every Wednesday night. So I started watching more of that, and then I just stuck to it, and that's how I kind of got into it.
Yeah, those wrestling companies, they definitely tried their best to, and they succeeded to, like, put on shows for us every week, every weekend. I definitely got to give it to them. Like, they definitely, they were definitely determined to stay in business, and I tip my hat off to them. You
Yeah,
know,
they did a good job.
especially WWE, even though that was like the weirdest WrestleMania I ever saw. WrestleMania, what was it? WrestleMania 36, where there was like pretty much nobody there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that
was rough to get through.
yeah. And it's funny because now I guess the pandemic had them in I don't want to, would you agree that the pandemic is the reason why WWE started doing 2 days, like 2-day WrestleManias now?
I would say partially because I remember hearing it like a year or two before the pandemic happened that WWE was thinking about doing WrestleMania as a two night event. I wouldn't be surprised if WWE just gave. I wouldn't be surprised if the pandemic just gave them the excuse to do it.
Yeah, but honestly though, I think it's better this way because I remember being in Japan. I was stationed in Japan, and that was I was there. I was in Japan for Kofi Mania when Kofi Mania happened over here, and I remember that WrestleMania was 8 hours. I'm like, are you serious? 8 hours? So you're trying to tell me from like 8 o'clock, which is when WrestleMania starts, from 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the morning. I have to I actually have to watch WrestleMania. Like, if I gotta work the next, so you trying to tell me that I got that? If I buy these tickets, yeah, I could watch WrestleMania Saturday, but WrestleMania Sunday, I gotta cut it short because I got work the next day. It's either I cut it short or I go through the whole thing and go home, like get home like what, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and then get up for work the next day, or call out. I mean, but that's if it was in my if it was in my hometown, like if it was in the city I lived in. If it's the case where I'm on vacation, well, I'd probably call that Monday off. But still, that was just a bit much. I'm glad they're doing 2 days now.
Yeah. A funny thing about WrestleMania 35 for me is that when the pandemic started, I was in the early days of the pandemic, I was flipping through the channels, and one of the sports channels I was looking at, I'm like, wait, why are they showing Daniel Bryan with the 2 championships? And then I clicked on it, I'm like, they're showing WrestleMania 30 on one of our sports channels right now, and it was the end of WrestleMania 30. And then I looked at the schedule, and it was saying that in like the next day or so, they're going to have they're going to show WrestleMania 35 in its entirety on free TV. And I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. And they had very few commercial breaks, and that was the first time I was able to see WrestleMania 35, and that was fun to watch. And it really helped me out through the pandemic. Your mic.
Oh, WrestleMania 35. Yeah, that was 20. Yeah, Kofi Mania. Yeah, that was That was definitely a good one to watch as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, so AEW, man. So hopefully you get to go to a show. Have you gotten to go to a show yet or no?
No, no.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on how they're doing things these days, man? I mean, are you? Cause me personally, I mean, I got my own. My opinion may differ from yours, but what's your opinion on AEW right now? With how they're doing everything, and like what are some things you think that what are some things that you like, and what are some things that you think that you don't like, and that you think that they can easily improve on?
Well, well, probably from the way you see me on Twitter and all that, that there is room for improvement with the women's division. But I can understand why, to a degree, why they're only doing one match per show in most cases. Um, like don't fully quote me on this, but like QT Marshall had said in an interview about a couple of months ago that it's not a booking issue that they're struggling with or why they're doing that with the women. It's a ratio problem because when you have almost 100 men on the roster and only 25, 26 women, how do you balance that out? Like, where's the middle ground you can put on, onto the show every week? Because if you put on like 2 or 3 women's matches, you're taking time away from a bunch of the guys. And I can understand that to a degree. Um, Other problems I think is there's a lot of people that you don't see that often anymore on TV. Like when was the last time the Dark Order were on TV? And like I would love to see them back on TV, but they're still doing very good on Dark and Elevation. Um, I'm really wondering what's going to be going on with the MJF situation right now.
Mm.
Like I'm pretty sure it is a work because one of the things that I think is that like the news coming out that AEW has asked Warner Bros. Discovery to remove MJF from like all the ads and everything. I've seen some people think they'll now this is a shoot. This can't be fake and everything. And I'm like, if this was real, MJF would have said something by now. He would have said something to say, yeah, this is real. This is BS. And we haven't heard a thing like that. So I'm pretty sure this is going to be a work, and I think they're setting up something probably maybe for the Battle Royal tomorrow that maybe MJF's going to be in the disguise tomorrow night, and he's going to win it. He's going to beat Moxley, and then he's going to win the intern championship at Forbidden Door, remove the mask, and it's him. I wouldn't be surprised if they do that.
I wouldn't be surprised because let's be honest. I mean, if somebody, case in point, if somebody were to just decide to walk to the ring on a scheduled show, but they're not scheduled to walk to cut any promos in that ring, but they decide, hey, I'm pissed off at the boss. I'm gonna walk my butt over there to the ring and just shoot on the boss. Where's the security? You're trying to tell me people wouldn't have came there, cut his mic, and then escorted him out? Like, no, they probably. I mean, it could be a shoot, could be a work. I always say I will believe it when I see it. I will if he is no longer there after a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it was a shoot. A great one at that. You got me.
Mm-hmm.
If it was a work, hey, great acting. Man, y'all did pretty. I mean, it's not like kind of CM Punk level because CM Punk, that pipe bomb, that was some realness. But then again, this one had a bit of realness too behind it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just gonna wait and see what it is, and if he appears on AEW after a certain amount of time or not.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the best answer for everything is time, and I think a lot of wrestling fans need to learn that. So yeah, so hopefully you get a chance to go to AEW, and one of your favorites is Chris Stadlander, right?
Yeah,
Wow,
big fan.
I bet you were rooting for her like through this whole Owen Hart tournament and whatnot.
Yeah, I was. Like I'm not upset that she lost. Like she still did a lot. Like as a last minute addition because of Shida being stuck in Japan.
Right.
But at the same time, like I kind of had a feeling she was not going to win it because she was inserted at last minute. So it wouldn't have been fair to like Ruby or someone else to lose to somebody who just got inserted in like that at last minute.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Point there.
And she and Ruby still put on a great semifinal match.
Okay. Yeah, they definitely did. I remember that. That was a pretty good match.
Mm-hmm.
So, in regards to the wrestling, the you're in Winnipeg, Winnipeg, Manitoba. My apologies
Yeah.
on. How's the wrestling scene over there? Like, is it like on the same as like Texas and New York here? Is it popping? Are like 101 promotions to go to, or is it like very, or is it like moderate? Like there's shows, but then there aren't shows. Like, how is it over there?
Winnipeg has actually got I would say, a pretty rich wrestling culture and history. Like, there's a lot of greats that came from here. Like, again, like I mentioned, like Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho and Don Callis. There have been others who have appeared in NXT that have come from Winnipeg, and probably there's been a few. There have been indie promotions that have come and gone here in Winnipeg. One that's currently going right now that's gotten a lot of attention in the city here is Winnipeg Pro Wrestling, and like if you go to their alumni page, they've had quite a few people who are like now in WWE or in Impact who have made appearances here. Like Josh Alexander from Impact it comes here once in a while to work for them.
The Walking Weapon. Okay.
Yeah. Trying to remember who else. Shotzi Blackheart, I was surprised had done some work here in the past before WWE. I did not know that, and she's been one of my favorites.
Okay.
Trying to remember, I can't remember who else is in there, but it's gotten a lot of attention, and it's a very family friendly promotion, and if like AEW comes to Winnipeg, I could definitely see them being recruited to do some matches for like Dark and Elevation, and maybe some of the AEW roster come over there and do some matches there.
Okay. Yeah, I know Canada has a pretty great history with wrestling. Some of my favorites have actually came from there.
And like if AEW ever comes to Winnipeg, there's no doubt in my mind they'll sell out here in the city. Like the Winnipeggers love their wrestling. And our biggest arena here is the Canada Life Center. It's about a 16,000 seat arena. There's no doubt they'll sell it out if they come here. There's no doubt.
Wow. Okay. That'd be awesome. Well, hopefully they actually get a chance. They actually go to Winnipeg and run shows there, and
if Kenny Omega is good to go, he's gonna get a monster pop in his hometown.
Ooh, I'm sorry for that opponent. That opponent is gonna hear those chants through like nonstop for Kenny Omega. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I gotta say though, man, Kenny definitely. It's funny how Kenny he's actually like made a name for himself without going to WWE. Mm-hmm. Although technically he was signed to them, but he never made it out of their developmental, the developmental group or whatever, the developmental promotion. Mm-hmm. And he just went out on his own, went to Japan, honed his craft and made a name for. He's pretty much like Sting. Like maybe later on in his career, he'll probably do like Sting, and WWE will get the last of him. Because I heard at one point like they were going hard to sign him and the Young Bucks to their promotion. Mm-hmm. But I honestly am scared because if they were to sign Kenny, I don't think it would be the same. WWE changes everybody.
Hardly anybody. I don't see Kenny ever going to WWE.
Yeah, there's hardly anybody that goes to WWE, and that's another thing. I look at MJF. I'm like, if MJF goes to WWE, he's not going to be the same. I don't think so.
No, he's going to have to be PG. He's not going to be allowed to swear like he does before.
Yeah,
He's going to be he's going to have to read from a script. He's going to be really watered down.
yeah. And I always say, like, people say WWE should sign them. They hope they get signed by WWE, or they hope they get signed by AEW or Impact. But I'm like, some of these promotions are not for some of these people, and I've seen it throughout. I know you've seen it. You know, I've seen it with Bret Hart when he stomped off WWE, the Montreal school job, and he went to WCW. It just didn't feel the same for him.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had Chronic. Was it Chronic? Brian Adams and Brian Clark thriving in WCW. Went over to WWE, nothing. You know, so and then another more recent one was like EC3. Granted, he started in WWE. He started, you know, as Derek Bateman. Wasn't that big of a star. Went to Impact Wrestling, dominated, reinvented himself as EC3. Had the crowd singing along to his song. Goes back to WWE. They're like, "Oh yeah, come on back. We like what you've done with yourself." Nothing. So you know, it's different social, different folks. So I just got one last question, man. So you're the Blue Fox, man, and I saw that you actually have a character. Like, yeah, you have your profile picture on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's a lucha, I guess, a masked wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
So how did it all come about, man? Like, what's the story behind that?
Blue Fox actually was a female wrestler I came up with back in, I'd have to say the early 2000s, when I created my own like fantasy wrestling promotion.
Okay.
And then like it always stuck with me for a long time, and then when I started getting back into WWE in 2019, because I took a very long break from 2005 till around early 2019.
Mm-hmm.
I decided to resurrect it again, and then I decided, okay, like I already know what she looks like in my head. I want to get some artwork done of her so I can use her for pictures and other stuff like that. And also, I as of right now, I am working on a novel about her, about this wrestler, and
Okay.
about how she gets from the indies here in Canada to the big leagues of big leagues of all Canadian pro wrestling, and all the new friends and allies she meets, the new opponents she has to face, and going towards getting the women's championship. And Blue Fox to me is kind of like my own persona as well, of like what I would be if I was a wrestler. Like if I was a wrestler, I would probably want to be a masked wrestler,
Okay.
because they always just seem very cool, and just the whole kind of kayfabe with it, that you can keep your identity secret. No one will know who you are if you took the mask off and you're walking around outside, and unless people have seen who you looked like before, but if they've not, then you can walk around, no one would know who you are. Like many wrestlers in Mexico and Japan have gotten away with that. Even up until their deaths, no one knew who they really were.
Okay. Wow. That sounds. I gotta say, that sounds very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you get that novel published, let us know. We'll definitely have you back on the show to talk about it, and you know, I'll definitely purchase a copy myself because I like reading material like that. You know, it's just funny how wrestling actually inspires people to do so many things. Like people, you know, they become artists. Like they write novels. Because I saw another guy. I met a guy. It was last October or last September at the Big Apple Comic Con here in New York, and he was writing graphic novels that are pro wrestling inspired, like comic books. And I was like, wow, this is pretty cool, you know. And people actually like they some people do pro wrestling related music. I know one guy that you know he raps about you know different pro wrestlers and so on, and it's just awesome, man. Like it's amazing how pro wrestling can inspire you know people to take what they love and incorporate it into another passion that they have or a talent that they have. Yeah. So I just gotta say, man, you know, I really, we really appreciate you, taking time out of your busy schedule to come on our show. I'm sorry my two other hosts couldn't be here, Kathy Knight or Rob Bass. But hey, we normally do predictions shows, so I mean, whenever we have AEW predictions, we definitely like to have you back on.
I would love to do that.
Yeah, so we can shoot the breeze. And it's funny because we've had a couple other Canadians on here, so who knows? We might even have a all like Canadian, prediction. When I'm not Canadian, but we might have all Canadian guests like panel joining us for one of those prediction shows, man. So I wish you all the best with your novel. And like I said, whenever you get it published, man, let us know. We'll definitely be looking to have you back on as a main guest. But before I shut this show down, where can fans find you on social media when they want to talk wrestling, all things AEW, Chris Statlander, and also, check out your artwork and so on?
Mainly just on Twitter at uh, uh, at ACPW Fox 98.
Awesome.
That's
So
mainly where I'm most active.
awesome. So y'all heard this man's on Twitter. Definitely give him a follow. Very creative mind. Look out for his novel, his graphic novel that's about to come out.
It's not a graphic novel. It's actually just going to be a normal novel.
My apologies. Look out for his novel that's going to be coming out real soon. If you want something, if you want to read something different, definitely, pick up that novel whenever it drops. Hopefully soon. And with that being said, it's about time for us to shut this show down. My eyelids are getting heavy. My stomach is rumbling. That means it's time for dinner and a nap. Maybe not in that order, but before I partake in those activities, if you want to find me on social media, you can definitely find me on Twitter and Instagram at the Remy Blue. I'm also on Facebook under the alias Remy Blue. Our podcast is on social media. We're on Twitch at Ringside Society 2019, Twitter and Instagram at Ringside Society. We're on Facebook as a Facebook group, and we're also on Spotify, Blog Talk Radio, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. That's right. We actually have a YouTube channel where we have a lot of cool fan interviews like this one and many others. And we also have a lot of cool interviews with wrestlers, referees, promoters, people like Katie Hebner, the daughter of Earl Hebner, the assassin AK-47, who's Fuego del Sol's cousin, Inevitable Michael Martinez, who's Damian Priest's cousin, Princess Victoria, first ever WWF Women's Tag Team Champion, and many others. So make sure you check out our YouTube channel. All you gotta do is go on YouTube, type in Ringside Society. You'll see that sweet OMG dark blue and light blue yin yang sign with the blue flames around it. Once you see that, that's when you know it's us. So make sure you subscribe to all of our videos because we got a lot of cool stuff coming up, and you don't want to miss a thing like Aerosmith in 1998. But with that being said, we just want to thank everybody tuning in tonight live. Thank you very much. We really and truly appreciate it. We strive on being one of the best podcasts to bring you some of the best wrestling material that a wrestling fan can watch. And to those of y'all that are going to listen to us later on when you get a chance, thank you very much in advance. And those of y'all that hate us, can't stand us, really and truly wish we'd go away, well, like myself at the Golden Corral, we're not going anywhere for a while. But with that being said, we just want to let everybody know that we here at Ringside Society are very well and aware that everybody and their grandparents and the parents of a podcast. But we're not your grandparents' podcast. We're not your parents' podcast. As a matter of fact, we're not just any podcast. Hashtag we are not the same. We're the Wrestling Fans Podcast, Ringside Society. And with that being said, we just want to let y'all know that we will be releasing a new shirt. Maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. It's going to happen real soon. But until then, until next time, I just want y'all to do we just want y'all to do 4 favors for us. Stay safe, stay healthy, be excellent to each other, and party on, dudes. We out. Peace.